OPEC now appears to be making a panic move, rushing to announce an output increase even as the shock from the Iran war continues to disrupt global oil flows and shake already volatile markets. The oil cartel OPEC Plus has announced a major change in output as the war drags on, attempting to project control even as real supply remains constrained. After the UAE's exit, the Saudi-led cartel now appears to be struggling to maintain its hold on the market, with visible cracks raising serious questions about its ability to control global oil prices. 7 OPEC Plus nations have now agreed to raise oil output, making a coordinated move at a time when global markets are already under pressure and volatility continues to rise. According to reports, the group said production would be increased by 188,000 barrels per day for the month of June, signaling a controlled but cautious adjustment. The Saudi Arabia and Russia-led alliance agreed on this relatively modest output increase even as the ongoing Iran war continues to shape supply dynamics. This latest output decision was reported by Iran International on May 3, adding another layer of scrutiny to how the cartel is responding to crisis conditions. The increase comes even as disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz continue to affect global supply chains, limiting how much oil can actually reach international markets. In fact, this marks the third consecutive monthly output hike agreed upon by these 7 producers since the conflict began. However, experts have pointed out that the increase may be largely symbolic, given that blocked shipments are preventing additional barrels from moving freely. Despite these constraints, OPEC Plus appears to be signaling readiness to supply the market, even as the Hormuz crisis continues to disrupt normal flows. The group has also said it will review market conditions again at its next scheduled meeting on June 7, keeping the door open for further adjustments. The United Arab Emirates exited OPEC Plus on May 1, just days before this latest output decision was announced. Abu Dhabi withdrew from the alliance amid ongoing differences over production policy and long-term output strategy. The UAE had been pushing to maximize its revenue by increasing production capacity, reflecting a shift toward a more independent energy approach.
The United Arab Emirates' sovereign decision to reposition itself within the global energy system and to exit from OPEC and OPEC Plus is not directed against anyone. This is a strategic and studied decision that reflects our capabilities and our confidence in our ability to build a more diversified economy and our ambition for a better future. This decision serves our national interests and long-term strategic goals, aligns with our industrial, economic, and developmental aspirations, and empowers us to accelerate our investments, expand, and create value.
At the same time, the UAE's national oil giant ADNOC has accelerated a massive $55 billion investment drive aimed at expanding its production capabilities. This move has exposed a rare crack within the oil cartel, particularly amid underlying differences between Riyadh and Abu Dhabi over regional issues like Yemen. Meanwhile, the White House has indicated that the United States is weighing measures to increase its own oil output in response to rising prices.
Right. Well, the price of gasoline, of course, is very, very high. We expect that that's a temporary phenomenon. You saw that one of the side effects of the war that is going to have a big long-term positive effect is that the UAE has left OPEC, which basically breaks OPEC. Our expectation is that the straits will be open soon, and when that happens, that there's a heck of a lot of excess capacity that OPEC has been constraining that can come through the Gulf. And so futures markets already are saying that this is a temporary phenomenon and prices are going to go down. But we think that we're more optimistic even than futures markets because we've started to account for the fact that UAE left OPEC and they have a massive amount of excess capacity. They could turn the knobs up to 100% right away, and that'll have a huge effect on oil prices around the world.
Before the Iran war escalated, the Strait of Hormuz handled roughly 20% of the world's oil and gas trade, making it one of the most critical energy choke points. That equation changed when Iran blocked the route following attacks by the United States and Israel, disrupting a key artery of global energy supply. The resulting disruption has removed millions of barrels per day from the market, tightening supply and increasing pressure on prices. Global oil prices have since surged above $100 per barrel, reflecting the scale of the shock hitting energy markets. For years, OPEC Plus output cuts and increases have played a central role in guiding global oil prices, but the current crisis is now testing those limits. Donald Trump has announced the launch of Project Freedom, a U.S.-led initiative aimed at helping dozens of merchant ships stranded in and around the Strait of Hormuz, starting from May 4th. Trump described the operation as a humanitarian gesture intended to assist neutral country vessels and their crews caught in the war zone, many of which are running low on supplies while waiting for safe passage. However, U.S. officials later clarified to outlets such as the Wall Street Journal that Project Freedom would not involve direct naval escorts in the way his initial remarks implied. Instead, the White House outlined the creation of a maritime coordination cell that will identify and share safe routes through the strait, clear of mines and high-risk areas, while coordinating with commercial shipping lines and allied navies. This signals a more limited, advisory role for the U.S. military than the image of warships physically shepherding tankers through the choke point that Trump's announcement initially suggested. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "For the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways, so that they can freely and ably get on with their business. Many of these ships are running low on food, and everything else necessary for large-scale crews to stay on board in a healthy and sanitary manner." Unquote. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has confirmed that its forces will begin supporting Project Freedom from May 4th, integrating the initiative into its broader regional maritime security posture. CENTCOM has framed the mission as critical for both regional security and global economic stability, given that the Strait of Hormuz normally carries roughly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil and LNG traffic. The command says more than 100 land and sea-based aircraft, including maritime patrol planes, fighters, and surveillance platforms, will provide surveillance, protection, and rapid response capabilities along the agreed safe corridors. Multi-domain unmanned systems, such as drones and unmanned surface vessels, will also be deployed to monitor mine-like threats, detect suspicious boats, and enhance maritime domain awareness without fully committing large warships. Around 15,000 U.S. service members across the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman are expected to contribute to Project Freedom, mainly in support, logistics, and intelligence roles, underscoring the scale of the operation even if direct combat is being avoided. Meanwhile, Iran has warned that any U.S. intervention in the Strait of Hormuz could be interpreted as a violation of the ceasefire framework, escalating diplomatic and military tensions. Lawmaker Ibrahim Azizi, head of the Iranian Parliament's Foreign Policy Committee, stated that any move by the U.S. Navy into the strait under the guise of freedom of navigation would trigger serious consequences. Ibrahim Azizi said, and I quote, "Any American interference in the new maritime regime of the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a violation of the ceasefire. The Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf would not be managed by Trump's delusional posts. No one would believe blame game scenarios." Unquote. Trump, however, has warned that any attempt to interfere with the operation would be dealt with forcefully, suggesting that the United States is prepared to respond militarily if its role in the Strait of Hormuz is challenged.